Hey guys, this is Chris Camaro and welcome back to another one of my repair videos. This time we'll be doing a replacement on my friend's Dodge Challenger. Now don't worry, I know this is the Chris Camaro channel, but if we didn't throw these guys a bone once in a while, we'd have nobody to compete against. So bear with me while I help out the Dodge people. And this time we'll be doing the side mirror. So it doesn't matter which side. In this particular case, it's going to be the driver's side mirror. But we're going to do a replacement on that mirror, and I'll walk you through it step by step. Now, whenever you're working with decorative automotive trim panels, there's always a risk of damaging them, and that can be very unsightly, obviously. So you want to get yourself a set of tools like the ones I have here. They fit into tight spaces and they won't scratch the trim, and you can use them to pry on surfaces and get them to unsnap and things like that. So the first step is to get off this plastic ring that goes around the locking rod on the inside of the door. Next, you'll want to lower the window and actually unscrew the locking rod. The reason for lowering the window is because if it's up, you will not be able to remove the cable that goes to the side mirror once you get the door apart. After that, there's a small plastic cap just inside where the door handle is, and you're going to need to pry that off in order to access the screw underneath. So go ahead and do that. Moving over to the door latch, there are two more pieces of trim that need to be removed. On the upper side, you'll find a piece that has a long wiring harness connected to it, and then directly behind the latch itself is a piece of trim that will hinge back and reveal a hidden screw. So go ahead and remove both of those. Going back to the door handle, you can now remove the screw that should be visible behind the piece of trim that you removed. And now we're back to the latch again. Sorry to jump back and forth here, guys. So you can go ahead and remove the screw that's behind this piece as well. Now there are several screws located around the perimeter of the door as seen here. So go ahead and remove those one at a time. Now you have to be kind of careful with this part. Around the sides of the door you have all these things that are kind of like Christmas tree clips, but they look a little different. They're large gray discs, but they've got these little smaller circular pegs in the middle. And in order to release those, you have to push the center peg in, but you don't want to just push it all the way in, because if you do, it'll fall into the door cavity and you'll have to fish it out, and you may not fish all of them out. You'll be leaving debris rattling around in your door if you can't get it out. So my recommendation is to very, very carefully push on these little pegs until they just pop in a little bit. But you don't want them to move more than a couple of millimeters. So try to follow the technique that I'm demonstrating here. Now, with all the screws and clips removed, you should be able to release the inner panel at this point. So find a corner that you want to start at and work your fingers around the inside of the trim like I am, and pull gently until you hear a bunch of clicking sounds. That's the clips releasing. Once you get all the way around, you should be able to then take the entire door panel and just lift it straight up and away from the sheet metal. So at this point, it's helpful to have a friend available, because even though you've removed all the fasteners, the trim panel won't actually move very far away from the door itself, since there's a whole bunch of wiring harnesses and stuff holding the two pieces together. So the best way to do this is to get your friend to support the trim panel by like grabbing onto the door handle or something and just holding it from falling, while you fish your hand in between the trim panel and the door and remove all the various wiring harnesses and stuff that's holding it together. Start directly behind the door latch and remove this red and black cable from the orange receptacle that it's plugged into. You should find a similar pair of red and black cables joined with a white connector on the inside of the door panel that you'll have to remove as well. Now here's a quick look in between the actual door and the trim panel, and you'll notice the next three steps are going to involve those two wiring harnesses, the white one and the black one, as well as the actual latch rod, which you can see covered in a yellow kind of mesh. So first up, we'll remove the wiring harness with the white insulation around it, and then go ahead and disconnect the black one. So because of how restrictive it was to work in such a small and narrow space, it was impossible for me to take video of this next step, so I'm going to try to talk you through it using pictures instead. There's this big long metal rod that's part of the latching and locking system that's holding the two pieces of the door together, and that needs to be removed. So you'll notice that there's this C-shaped yellow plastic clip that holds the rod to the door, and you have to basically pry the rod out of that C-shaped opening. Now the way that this clip works, the opening is running parallel to the rod, so you can basically pry the rod directly out of that opening, but the clip itself rotates on a shaft, so it actually swings around left to right. So you have to actually pry it and sort of rotate it at the same time, which will make it a little bit easier to remove the rod. So with one finger, try to put pressure on the rod, moving it to the right, and with your thumb perhaps put pressure on the plastic C-shaped clip, pushing it and rotating it to the left. And then the two should free from each other, and you should be able to remove the rod. Removing the rod was the last step involved in disconnecting the trim panel from the actual door. So you can just take that trim panel and lay it down on the ground or on the grass or something. Next, you're going to notice a very large vapor barrier covering up the entire door and hiding all the guts behind it. You're going to need to expose at least a portion of this in order to get the side mirror out. So at a very bare minimum, you're going to need to start in the top right corner and work your fingers along the glue-like gasket that adheres it to the door, and pry it back until you can get your hands inside the door. In my case, I just played it safe and removed the entire top half of the vapor barrier. Now at this point, you can peek your head inside that cutout above the speaker in the door, and you'll be able to see the wiring harness that supplies power to the side mirror. You're going to want to disconnect the electrical connector that feeds power to the mirror in order to remove the mirror itself. There's also a Christmas tree clip that's holding the harness to the door, so you'll have to use the blunt end of a screwdriver or some other flat object to push the Christmas tree clip out of the door sheet metal so that you can free up that harness and remove it from the mirror socket. Now here's a pretty good picture of the underside of the mirror where it connects to the door. And there's three things here I want you to pay attention to. First, you've got three fasteners that need to be removed, and those hold the mirror rigidly to the door. Of course, you've got the wiring harness itself to supply power to the mirror, and then you've got this plastic clip with these two barbs on it, and the purpose of that is to hold the mirror to the door even after you've removed the screws, so it doesn't just fall and smash on the ground. So first thing you're going to want to do is remove the fasteners, and I would recommend holding onto the mirror anyway just in case, but that plastic clip should hold it in place, and you're going to need to use needle nose pliers to push those together in order to actually free the mirror from the receptacle. So here you can see me removing the three hex nuts. And this is just another view from the underside of the mirror to demonstrate how the mirror remains in place even though the nuts are missing. Again, just because of those barbs on that little plastic clip there. So the next step will be to pry those together with a pair of needle nose pliers, as I'm going to do in the next step. And finally, you can install your new mirror by feeding it through the open hole. I would just recommend using a cleaner like alcohol to clean the interface between the mirror and the car door, just to make sure that it remains weatherproof and you don't have any dirt or grime visible in the seams. Everything from here on out is just the reverse operation of what you did to get to this point, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to get the door back together with the new mirror installed. That's pretty much everything. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thank you very much for supporting my channel. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and let me know what you think. Talk to you soon.